our attention to matters pertaining to social justice. Today is no different, of course, and we do so addressing a new topic. Keep calm and carry on. So as we a few weeks ago explored the storms inside our lives with the issue of, in fact, let me not first call it that, Sister Lillah. Let me first call it what seemed like a very contentious topic, and it was the N word. And then as we unpacked it, it was with regards to narcissism and people who are narcissistic, of course, as you unpacked that for us today. We're carrying on with this week's theme, Keep Calm and Carry On. We welcome in studio with us researcher for the Maternalist Quartet, student of Hifz Qu'ran, head of marketing in the health industry, Sister Lillah. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Looking forward to another conversation. We of course our interest is peaked already when it comes to the theme, but please first proceed for us and open up with the dua.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanallah, we know nothing except that which Allah teaches us. Ya Allah, let our actions be done for your sake sincerely, and do not place therein any portion for other than you. Lord, we ask you for your love and the love of those who love you, and love for all those actions that will lead us to your love. Lighten our hearts through your word, beautify our characters through it, and save us from the punishment of the fire through it. Make your Quran approved for us and not against us. Show us truth as truth and grant us the ability to follow it. Show us falsehood as falsehood and grant us the ability to avoid it. Lead us to those and the actions that will lead us to your love, and loosen our tongues, open our chests, and grant us the best of both worlds with increased protection. Forgive any wrongdoing or mistakes we make, and lead us to better if we are wrong, and keep us focused on you and your Anbiya in regards to yourself, in drawing closer to you. Ameen thumma ameen. I actually read not all of it. I'm just going to show you what it looks like, Sister Khadija. This is the Substacks. So it is the, if you look here, I'm on Substacks. It's Lillah at the Maternalist Quartet on Substacks. So I've put the opening prayer, and I've started putting articles on Substacks. So if you go to Google Business, so basically on Google, if you type in the Maternalist Quartet, then you will find the Maternalist Quartet comes up as a research institute. The Substacks is found on the website part of it. And then on YouTube also, I've done very quick little 4-minute videos that you can pause and you can, dissect from there as well, inshallah. So you'll find the Maternalist Quartet. It's on the YouTube, and it's on you'll find it on Google Business, and then you'll find the Substacks article, because Substacks is actually very difficult to find otherwise. So some writers, they put it on they create Google businesses for themselves, and then they actually add it's a combination of like a blog and a email list. So if you subscribe, then what happens is that same article will then pop up into your email, exactly as it is with images and everything. So what's nice about that is because what I discuss is very visual, like especially if I'm going into like the alphabet, and I connect a lot of dots that are very visual with diagrams. So on radio, it's not that easy to follow me when the subject is so visual, but at least on the Substacks, the articles and the YouTube, you're going to get the visuals, and so things, inshallah, will make a lot more sense. And it's also in bits and pieces, so it's, much easier to focus on one theme at a time.
Now, so if I Google the Maternalist Quartet, which is what I did now, then one of the YouTube pages refer me to Substacks. So that's what you would want us to do. But I see it's easier, so for the ease of our listeners, when I just put in the Maternalist Quartet, it's not going to take me straight there. It's going to take me to a range of other pages as well. But if you Google the Maternalist Quartet Substacks.
If that doesn't work, if you go straight into it'll be in the bio of the YouTube. So that's much easier. Yeah. Because you find with Google Business, when you sometimes I find, like for other businesses, the Google Business doesn't always pop up straight away once you've opened it. It takes a while. But I think maybe give it a couple of weeks and it'll start popping up more regularly. But for now, there's the YouTube, and in the YouTube there's the bio of the Maternalist Quartet on Substacks.
So Google that if you would like to know, because as Sister Lillah said, what we've done in the past few weeks, we've realized that because, exactly as you said, there's so much information, it becomes incredibly dense. And so do yourself a favor and go read further. In fact, even before we have our session on a Wednesday, and just to give you some background also, if you'd like that, of course, Sister Lillah gives a very, very complete we have a very complete discussion during this hour.
Yeah.
But for anybody who wants to find out a bit more, because all of this is part of the research associated with the Maternalist Quartet, just to sort of locate it.
Yes, inshallah. So this week we're dealing with keep calm and carry on. So we're still talking about narcissism, but what I'm doing now is I'm breaking up the theme to be more generalized, because I find with the issue of narcissism is that people can get very attached, and they can also get very anxious because people get worried about narcissists. You know, if I'm dealing with abusive people, if I'm dealing with people who are toxic, what can they do to me? You know, are people going to talk about me? What are they going to say? How is that going to affect me? How are other people going to perceive me? And all of these issues. And, you know, if you look at the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, you'll notice that he ultimately ends up where he's supposed to be, regardless of what people do to him. And there's three types of people: toxic type of people, negative people that have impacted harm onto him one way or another, and yet he still ends up in the best position, because that is Allah SWT plan. So as a believer, you have to, you know, as they say, hold tight to the rope of Allah SWT. So for example, last week we had a comment about, I think the person said something to the effect of, I don't know if you remember, they said something to the effect of, is somebody a narcissist if you suggest something and then they say, oh, well, that I am what I am. And I said, well, look, you know, there's two possibilities. A person could be a victim of narcissism and responding that way, because narcissists like to manipulate and control people. A narcissist is not somebody, there's a difference between me saying like, look, I find it offensive if you're late for an appointment. Well, I don't like it that you're late for an appointment. Can you, why are you not on time? And is there a way that you can fix this? So there's a difference between negotiating that and pointing out a specific speech or action that you have an issue with, especially as far as your boundaries and your rights are concerned, versus trying to change someone's personality. Like, I find that you are extroverted, but I want to make you more calm and more still. Or I find you more introverted, but I want you to be more expressive and more bubbly. So you must have more energy when you don't have, and you must have less energy when you do have. So there's a difference between like the generalization of trying to manipulate and control people, which narcissists love to do, because a narcissist is not somebody that will, or somebody with strong narcissistic tendencies, they won't just, like a normal person like you and me will go towards our preferences. They won't do that. They will basically go for their supply. They want attention. All they want is attention. So they'll go for somebody with superficial qualities that will fuel their interest, and then they will try and manipulate and control the person. Even if the person gets upset, that is a form of fuel and supply. Now, if you have certain boundaries and certain rights, and you say to the person, listen, these are my boundaries and these are my rights, and they say, oh, well, I'm that I am, deal with it. That is a typical narcissistic response, because narcissists don't care about boundaries. They don't care about your rights. They just want what they want. So a good way to understand this or unpack this is that, look, you know, the reason why I want to open it up to not label, get locked in on whether or not the person is a narcissist is because if you look at, for example, people in active addiction, I have followed, and I know that there are a lot of people in this community that have loved ones in active addiction. It is a huge problem. I've been following, for anybody listening that is having that problem, you go to Hopeful Families on YouTube. There's a lady called Amber Hollingsworth, and she teaches you what counselors do to assist people out of active addiction. So for example, you don't go up to somebody who's a smoker and say, you should just stop smoking, because they're going to get resistant and they're going to get defensive. You understand? Now, the person's not a narcissist. The person is an addict. They have an attachment. And with that attachment, they're going to get defensive. You understand? So if you instead, what she would do is, if she's counseling somebody with an addiction, she uses the DARN method. It's D for desire, A for ability, R for reason, N for need. Okay, I know I'm going a little bit fast here, but I just wanted to give you the general idea of how when she's counseling somebody, she pulls out their desire, their ability, their need, their confidence, or their inclination towards wanting to quit. So you say, look, have you ever thought about quitting smoking? Yeah, actually I have thought about it, because, you know, I'm coughing, and, you know, I want to improve my health. I want to do better at the gym. then what you do there is you ask them more questions and you draw that out further, because that's how you motivate the person to quit, because then that's coming from them. It's not you pushing reasons onto them, because the more you push reasons onto them, the more they're going to resist. The more you draw it out of them, the more inclined they're going to be they're more likely to quit their addiction or go to rehab or resolve the issue. And Dan Locke, parallel to that, he was doing a business conference. We were saying if there's an issue in a business, like for example, you have a corporation, one of the staff are not performing very well, instead of going up to them and say, look, you better do your job this, or you're going to get fired, you're going to get resistance again. But instead you say, look, what is the problem and how can you resolve the problem? And you ask them to spitball ideas. You get them into the problem solving mode. So that's a much more effective way of not so much control, because we can't control people. You know, even Yusuf alayhi salam, he is a really good planner from what we can see from the Quran, but he didn't plan his own situation. Allah SWT planned his situation. And then towards the end, when he's making dua after he's reconciled all his family and brought everyone together, he acknowledges that Allah SWT is the one that's in control. We can't control or impact people. We can inspire, we can motivate, we can do what we can with the skills that we can. But then, you know, besides that, you have to detach. And ego, this is where the ego has to be checked, because at the end of the day, the actions are in our hands, but the results are in Allah SWT hands, you see. So, you know, this is why we need to kind of check the narcissism, or the percentage of narcissism in ourselves when dealing with other people. You understand? And to detach when we're dealing with other people, we do what we can, but then you kind of have to step back and give people space at the same time, inshallah, and just be persistent. Keep calm, carry on.
Yeah, keep calm, carry on. And it's so important, I think, that you drive home that first point, the idea of not becoming so attached to labels or so consumed by labels.
Yeah.
In exactly the same way, you know, about this notion of taking accountability for yourself and your own actions. Otherwise, one becomes so consumed by having attached the label to yourself.
Yeah.
It actually absolves me of taking responsibility for my behavior and what I may do to incite certain behavioral patterns in somebody else. And of course, not validating or in any way saying that it's okay for a narcissist to behave in a certain way.
Yeah.
But it becomes about that. Let's face it, that there's a broad spectrum, firstly, and we're not always equipped to be able to identify. So we cannot hone in on one characteristic or one aspect and say that this person is this particular way inclined.
Because potentially we then get ourselves trapped into, and this is another thing that drug counselors warn against, or people that counsel people with active addiction, when they're counseling families, they warn against the drama triangle, you know, the victim, villain, savior drama triangle. They say, whatever you do, stay out of the drama triangle, because whether you're dealing with a narcissist or someone in active addiction, they always try to pull you into that. Now, what the active addicts do, and this is so consistent, this is so typical, this is so like across the board, they like to antagonize their loved ones to get you riled up so that you react, so that they can justify their need for their medication. Because you are so hard on me, I therefore need to do this because you are like you are, it's your fault. So they get themselves in that kind of pattern. So the counselors say to the families, like, don't take the bait. Don't take the bait. You have to set your boundaries. You have to practice self-care, take care of yourself. And I think the best way to do that is to find your higher purpose in alignment with the grand scheme of things. So if again, coming back to Yusuf alayhi salam, he had a greater purpose, he had a greater plan, or should I say there was a greater plan. So he knows that there was a plan for him. He can't plan that himself. He's going along with the situation where he's like, he's in slavery, then he's like basically thrown in a well, then he gets sold into slavery, he gets basically trafficked, he gets in someone's house, he's being sexually harassed and stalked, then he ends up in prison. So it's a highly tumultuous, it's chaotic. The life is completely chaotic. It's actually a very traumatic existence for a human being to have. And then look where all of that leads him, to the position that he is. So there's a greater plan for him. And just like you have to remember that there is a greater plan for you, despite all the chaos in your life, there is a greater plan for you. And if you focus on being part of that greater plan, you connect to Allah SWT as part of that greater plan, then you can effectively set your boundaries in accordance to that. Like, is what's being said and what's being done, is that serving the purpose as part of my life and to what I want to achieve? You understand? So in terms of having a loved one I know, like, parents, for example, who are dealing with adult children who are in active addiction, you know, they have to take care of themselves. They have to focus on their lives. They have to focus on their higher goal and mission. And then when dealing with their active loved ones, they have to set their boundaries and, like, look, I'm not going to accept, you're an adult. I can't control your behavior in terms of what, you know, if you're drinking or if you're doing this or that, but you're not going to speak to me like that. You understand? So if you're sending me messages, I'm going to block and delete. You understand? Or I'm not going to let you, I'm not going to give you the keys to my car. I'm not going to let you live in my house if you're going to steal from me and things like that. You can still be loving, you can still be kind, you can still have that tonality, but you have to set those boundaries because you have a higher purpose and you can't just let people come and trample through your house with their dirty feet and make a big mess whenever it suits them. So that's why when it comes to looking at narcissism, it's important to identify the qualities and characteristics so that you can prepare yourself and be on guard, but you've also got to be very careful of getting too attached to the idea of this person being a write-off as a narcissist. Like Fir'aun, it's very clear that the Quran pretty much writes off Fir'aun, says this is the worst of creatures. With the brothers, there's some space around them, you know, like you can't quite write them off because, like, Yusuf himself forgives and brings everybody together. If you look at the wife of the Aziz, the one who rips Yusuf's shirt, and that's, I want to talk about that more next week, inshallah. That specific quality, but she later repents. So the person that you're dealing with now, look, they can change for the better, but for now you have to set your boundaries, you know, and that's why I'm saying keep calm, carry on. Because the problem is that as soon as you're dealing with one situation, you're going to find that there's another situation and another situation. Just like the discussion you were having just before we went on air, no good movement goes unhijacked. Like Shaitan always gets into everything, like no matter what. Every situation. So you'll find that as soon as you're dealing with one hectic situation, there's another one. And then you deal with that one, and then there's another one. And that's going to be throughout your entire life. So you might as well have a sense of calmness and detachment about it.
And have some themes, some overarching themes, or some type of process. And exactly because it's personal. It's infused with emotion. There's a whole range of other, let's say factors at play. To in some way or the other, which can easily also get you off course.
Yes.
In terms of how to resolve something like that. So yes, absolutely imperative then to have some sort of themes at play. I think let's go to break, and I know there's quite a few other points that you want to pick up on, and so we'll do so after the break, inshallah. It's Community Pulse 100.4 FM. This is Khadija Ajam, and in studio with us we have Sister Lillah, of course, speaking to us around today's theme, all about keeping calm and carrying on.